was as far as her introduction to the sport of track and field?
Okay. Um, so before I started running track and field, I used to be a competitive dancer. And this is when I was living in California and I did all kinds of dance. I did tap, jazz, modern hip hop, lyrical.
Oh,
But my dad got a job promotion and we moved from the state of California to the state of Washington. And when I got to Washington, I didn't really like any of the dance studios that were out there. So I kind of stopped dancing, but I wanted to stay active. And I had remembered that two of my best friends in California had run track and they loved it. They always talked about how great it was. And like they would invite me to come to their practices and watch their races. And so when I got to Washington, I was like, hey, they loved it. Let me try it. And then I tried it and immediately fell in love with it. And like that's my like whole world now.
how old were you when you started dabbling with track and field? Just started messing with it.
15 years old.
Wow, that's late considering all the success that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't really start hurdling until my junior year of high school. I think I ran like maybe two races my freshman year of high school, but then I broke my hip trying to hurdle. I didn't really have a good grasp on how to hurdle or like the right coaching at the time. So I ended up injuring myself and didn't run the hurdles at all my sophomore year because I was afraid to. But the summer between my sophomore and my junior year, I joined club track and I got with a coach who was like, oh, I think you'd be a really great hurdler. And I was like, I'm not so sure about that. I hurt myself last time. And he was like, no, I'll teach you, I promise. And he taught me. And that's when like my hurdle career like really began, was like so my junior year. So that means that I was like around like 17 years old when I started hurdling.
Or was it
So
like your junior year, roughly?
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, um, not to be biased, but I always kind of felt like hurdlers um, are better all-around athletes or just straight up sprinters because there's just that added challenge. How do you feel about that stance?
Um, I feel like I wouldn't say that like I'm a better all around athlete. I definitely think that it like takes some coordination to like get over the hurdles. But I would argue that they're like the sprinters um are more athletic and that's just as technical to run the sprints as well. And sprinting is definitely not my like strong suit. Like I have to have the hurdles there for me to have a good run. So I don't want to take anything away from sprinting because it's a technical race as well. It's just a different kind of technique.
Fair enough. Tell us a little bit about how COVID impacted you and you know, I'm sure it had an impact on other student athletes, other sports, but specifically for a track and field student athlete. Kind of tell us about the impact of COVID, especially right at the beginning when the pandemic first hit.
So when the pandemic first hit, that's when we were about to start our outdoor season my senior year. And I was actually at Tulane University. But because of the pandemic, that season got canceled. And so then I basically just had like a whole year to train. Um, that year was actually kind of interesting for me because I ended up transferring from Tulane to NC State. So I had kind of like a period where I didn't have like an official coach because I was leaving Tulane and transitioning into the NC State situation. So I was kind of just training on my own, doing my own thing. But my younger sister and I, we would go to the track almost every day to work out. And there was a nearby high school that had hurdles that I would pull out and just kind of trying to make sure that I continued to work on my technique. So yeah, I just kind of took that advantage of that and like wanting to just continue to work out and keep my form so that when track did come back, I was ready and not, kind of floundering.
You want to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, a day in the life of a student athlete, I just had a college gymnast on the show, and she kind of broke down things from her perspective, from her sport. Explain a little bit the life of a student athlete from a track and field side.
It's pretty interesting. I think it kind of depends on your coach, because I have experienced it at 2 different universities. Some coaches kind of like to have a specific set practice time, and you have to like kind of schedule your classes around that practice time. And then other coaches are willing to be more flexible, and will kind of structure practice around your class schedule, which is pretty nice if you have classes that like you like literally just can't change. Like it might just be like a required course that they only have at this one specific time. But yeah, right now I actually have a really nice schedule. I'm in my last semester of my grad program, and I only have 2 asynchronous online courses. So like I don't have to like meet on a Zoom call or anything like that. It's just that the work's already laid out, and I just kind of do it at my own pace until the end of the semester. So I have a really nice schedule right now where I have open availability to go and practice whenever is, I guess, convenient for my coach and my teammates. So that's really nice. It can be a little bit difficult towards like, I would say like the beginning part of being a student athlete. So like when you're coming in as a freshman, because you're definitely going to have a heavier course load. And you want to structure it so that you're taking more of your courses, or like a heavier course load in the semester that you're not competing in. So like for track athletes, normally our fall semester has a heavier course load because we haven't really started competition yet. We might start competition at the very end in like December, but not all universities have meets in December. It's more of like January, February that the indoor season starts. And so the spring semester is when you kind of want to schedule your classes to be a little bit of a lighter load, because you're normally traveling every Thursday and not coming home until like Sunday. And so it's kind of hard to have a heavier class load because you'll be missing a lot of classes due to traveling.
Never even thought about that part as far as like when to have more classes, when to not. But then again, that's why you're all academic team as well.
Yeah.
So, that kind of makes sense. Now, you were at Tulane, you were a member of Phi Beta Kappa. Kind of share some of the benefits for incoming college freshmen. What are some of the benefits of belonging to a fraternity or a sorority?
So one of the things is it's networking. Networking is really important. And that's one of the like best ways to get a job. Because most of the time, like, yes, like having a degree and yes, getting good grades is like a bonus. But a lot of the times, like jobs and corporations, they're looking more about like networking and like who you know. And so being a part of something like that is definitely really nice, because it gives you a little bit of an advantage over someone else who may not be in that like same kind of organization. So like say I'm applying for a job, I have a slight advantage because I do have that Phi Beta Kappa, credential.
On our podcast, we like to kind of put our guests on the spot from time to time, encourage a little bit of critical thinking. So here goes. Now, if you were coming up with a life story movie on Brandi Hughes thus far, what will be the title of the movie, and which actress will play you? Oops, you got muted, Brandi.
All
There we
right,
go.
sorry about that. Can you
That's
hear me
all good.
now? Okay. Um, oh wow, that's a tricky one.
Put you
I
on the
don't know
spot.
what yeah, I'm trying to think of what would be a good title for my movie. Um, yeah, I'm not even sure. I would want to say something along the lines of like beating adversity
Okay.
or like the underdog, I guess I would say.
Okay. The
Um,
underdog.
yeah, just because I feel like that's something like I've always that's kind of been like a theme throughout my life. It's so funny. It's because it's like as soon as like I hit one goal, it's like the standards raise higher, and I'm like just continuously chasing that like higher standard. But I love it. I love having to like work hard and like just continuously like prove myself. Like, yeah, I am as good as I think I am, and I want the world to see it. Um, and like
I mean,
nothing's
you're
gonna
good at
stop me.
overcoming hurdles, right? So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then the actress who I would want to play me, oh, I don't know. I like Halle Berry.
okay.
Or maybe
Okay.
Zendaya. Zendaya would be a really good one too. She's so pretty.
Okay. Now, so you got the movie title,
Mhm,
you got the movie together.
mhm,
Now you talk about being an underdog and different challenges. So
mhm,
on our show, we always try to bring awareness to student mental health. Um,
mhm.
Kind of talk about what mental health and self-care means to you as a college student.
Um, Mental health is extremely important, especially for student athletes. And I would say specifically in track and field, especially because track and field is such an individualized sport. So like the biggest barrier you have in track and field is yourself. So you can't have any kind of doubts or negativity, especially when you're going into a race, because most of the time that will negatively impact you if you're not completely confident in your own ability. That's actually something that I've been working on a lot, and I'm continuously working on right now. And it's kind of a barrier that I'm trying to get over, the nerves and like just being confident in my abilities, and like really trusting all the training that I put in. It can be kind of difficult, especially if you don't see the results right away. But you have to trust the process and like know that you're putting in the work and you're going to reap the benefits of what you put in.
Excellent. Now, do you have any specific like coping skills or coping strategies, any kind of advice to a student athlete that may be struggling?
So I actually have a sports psychologist who I talk to. So I have someone who that I can go to and kind of share my thoughts with, and he normally gives me like little things I can do at home to help me kind of better visualize um I guess like my races and like better like improve my
Prep and
confidence in
focus.
myself.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really nice to have someone to talk to and to kind of just to get that out there. Journaling is also really great. My sister actually just started her own little company. It's called Affirmation, and she is working on making products like journals and stuff like that to help people to kind of get into a better and healthier mental state. And that's something that I think is really important, like the journaling and being able to write down your goals and like having more like a concrete thing there. It just kind of aids in, I guess, like bringing your dreams like to life. A lot of athletes you'll see will like legitimately write down their goals for the season, whether it be like a time or winning a certain meet. Um, so yeah, just kind of really trying to keep like positivity and like confidence in yourself. It can be difficult sometimes, but like just trying your best to like push out all the negative energy really helps.
Facts. And even taking it all the way back earlier to the college recruiting process, that can be kind of stressful. To share with us a little bit about your recruiting experience, how you got to Tulane long before you transferred over to NC State. How was that transition period from high school to Tulane?
Um, so like the recruiting process itself, like going on official visits, it's a lot of fun. You get to see like the what the university has to offer. The one thing I will say is that I had scheduled all my official visits back-to-back weekends, which was a little bit tiring, because most of my visits were all the way on the East Coast, and I was from the West Coast, so I did a lot of flying. But other than being kind of tired from flying all the time, I really enjoyed seeing all the like universities and being able to like weigh my options. Tulane ended up being the best option at the time, because they had a very rigorous academic environment, in addition to having that like Division I level like athletics. And that's something that was really important to me. Like I wanted to have the academics and the athletics. Going from high school to college is definitely a big jump. Some high school programs I have noticed that their track and field programs are pretty serious and they train really hard. But for the most part, they aren't on the same level as college workouts are. And so it can be kind of like a jarring transition, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm working out so much harder than I was in high school. And like you lift, and not all high school athletes lift. And so it's just kind of a transition. You definitely want to like watch your eating habits and stuff like that, because I did gain weight at first, and it took me a little bit of time to get it off, because I was just kind of, I guess, eating the same way I would at home, and kind of going out to eat a lot more just because I didn't have that home cooking. So you just want to be careful about that, because I feel like it is really easy to like get a little bit stressed out with school and track, and then like not really pay attention to the health of your body. So like just making sure that you're also kind of staying on top of that as well. But it was good. It was only momentary that I felt like I was kind of like not like I had a little bit of a culture shock, but you get adjusted pretty quickly, and you're able to do it.
Now, I'm real curious, like, at the level that you're at, that's big boy, big girl sports. What are kind of like the strength and conditioning workouts for a herder? Like anything unique, like plyometrics, like anything that stands out that you like to share?
So I do all the hurdles. I do the hurdles from the 60 hurdles all the way up to the 400 hurdles. So Mondays and Fridays are normally my longer workout days. So like repeat 300s or like repeat like 200, stuff like that. And they're normally at a relatively fast pace with a shorter rest. So it kind of sucks. But I definitely love those workouts because I know that I'm getting better. We lift on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
What kind of lifts? Like, are you guys doing like compound, explosive, or more along the lines of like just regular like lunges or something?
So yeah, we definitely lift heavier. Our coach, I love her so much. She really puts in a lot of effort to make sure that we are doing lifts that specifically help us. So each week we do this thing, it's called like the Sparta like jump test. And there's like this little mat that like senses your weight, and like it like measures your jumping, and it does all these calculations to figure out where your score is for like your drive, your load, and your exploding. And like some people have higher drive, some people have higher loads or explodes. And she tailors our weights to help us be more balanced athletes, so that all of our load, explode, and drive like numbers are high. So depending on like how you do on the test will kind of dictate what you're doing in the weight room. Most of the time though, because sprinting is a very like explosive action, we're doing more things to help us explode and like drive and hold that fast pace. Like, I don't even know what the word would be for that. But yeah, just like to help us
fast twitch muscle
sprint.
fibers and all that. Yeah. Are box jumps in the equation or some kind of players?
So we normally do plyometrics actually on the track with my coach. We do a lot of hurdle hops. And it's different kind of hurdle hops depending on what he's looking for. But yeah, so that's definitely a factor. We pull sleds to help us work on our explosions as well. It's just, you know, everything to get us so that we're best prepared for our race.
Excellent. Now, with each guest, you know, we want to kind of model kind of some of the things we say we're youth as far as like having a future outlook, goal setting, and planning. Where do you see Brandi Hughes in 4 years as far as like goals, brand building, the whole 9 yards?
In 4 years, I see myself running as a pro hurdler, and just continuing to live out like my dream and love of track and field, and kind of just showing the world like I'm a great athlete, and you know, I want everybody else to see that, share my love and my gift with the world. So yeah, that's where I see myself.
And I find your story especially motivating because for some of our young athletes, specifically a competitive sport like track and field, some athletes, young athletes, they didn't start off doing track and field at 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes, you know, they get discouraged, like, oh, so-and-so had a head start. They've been doing this for years. You came into the sport relatively late for track and field,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so what are, you know, some of the words of motivation you can have for a late bloomer?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is just like trust in your own ability. Like, you know what you can do. And just because, you know, some people will say like, oh, you need to start at this certain time, or, you know, you haven't had enough training, or you haven't done this or that. Like, you know, personally what you can do. And like, don't let any doubt or any haters stop you from doing what you want to do and know you can do.
Excellent. You know, it's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing for someone that's living a life real time, you know, doing their thing on the track. So, Brandi, continued blessings, continued success, also continued success to your sister's venture as well.
Thank you.
That's very, very important, and looking forward to following and supporting you and what you do. Thank you so much for your time, Brandi.
Thank you for having me.
You salute.